Hey friends, welcome to the Fireside. What you are about to watch and or listen to is an Inside Fireside Technique Talk. If you're not familiar with Technique Talks, they are one of our monthly events that we host in the Inside Fireside Tattoo Club. Inside Fireside is a group of tattooers who work together to hone our skills and become better artists. And the difference between a Technique Talk and a traditional podcast that you've probably seen me do before is that the technique talks tend to go a little deeper into working processes, materials, things like that of the artists that we're interviewing. So we're a podcast. We might just talk about any random topic. We're a little more dialed in on the technique talks, trying to tease out the things that make the artists that we're interviewing, tease out the things that make them unique. Second thing that is pretty different about Technique Talks is that it's not just me and the artist having a conversation. You'll notice our entire Inside Fireside Club is welcome to join and jump in on the conversation, ask questions, share ideas and things like that. So it's really a pretty unique thing. I've really enjoyed it. It's probably my favorite thing that we do in the Inside Fireside Tattoo Club. But if you would like to be a part of the club, or if you'd like to jump in on these conversations with us, you're welcome to join. We would love to have you. We do a ton of fun stuff. I won't go into it here. I will leave a link or a card or something. You'll be able to find out more about the Inside Fireside Club. There's no obligation to it. You can join 1 month, and if it's not for you, you can ditch it the next month. But anyways, I hope you enjoy this technique talk, and I'll see you at the end.
I was wondering if you could explain what your experience was like when you were going around to apprenticeships looking for one. What did people tell you?
Oh, that's a weird one, right? So,
Lyndon says he's in Texas. Sorry, just jumped in.
So I started like 25 years ago. So there were fewer shops, and a lot of the shops were kind of like biker affiliated in a way and stuff like that. So it was kind of like intimidating, especially as like a young kid, to go up and speak to these people. You know what I mean? They're already fucking terrifying. So like, I guess like what happened was like I went and I spoke to a couple people about it, and or better yet, I went to shops and I was ignored. Is probably a better way to put it. I was just like flat out ignored. I just would stand in like the waiting area for like a really long time, and just nobody would even come out of wherever the hell they were. Like I don't even know. So, you know, in an attempt, I did try, and back then my it's not, it's like sort of complicated, but it's not like, so my girlfriend at the time, her stepsister, where her father like remarried, who's their same age, her boyfriend wants to be a tattooer and he has an apprenticeship. So he was the me on the other side. And I was like, hey, would you like, you know, maybe like introduce me, and I'll show him like my drawings and stuff like that. And, you know, I'll show him like, you know, like the tattoos I had done out of my house. Not gonna lie, started out of my house there, right?
Yeah.
And when I got there, they looked at my stuff. Again, biker affiliated, a little intimidating, very intimidating. I had to wait outside in the parking lot, and they looked at my stuff, and then the guy brought my portfolio back to me, and he said, they told me to tell you that you didn't do these, and like, no, or something, or it was just the way it was spoken of. It was just odd, and I was confused by it, and I was like, I didn't draw them, or I didn't like, what do you mean I didn't do them? But then the guy was like, dude, you don't want to work here anyway. They're assholes. They treat me like shit all the time. You don't want to work here. And I was like, all right, now what do I do? So I started just tattooing out of my house and tattooing at people's houses. I'd go to their house and tattoo them and stuff. And this was 2001, right? 2001. And I was going to school full time. So it was like, it was hard to get in, and I was full time working on school. So I just kept tattooing out of my house, brought my portfolio to somebody, and I was like, hey, can I get a job? And he was like, well, no, but how about you pay me $10,000 and I'll give you an apprenticeship, and then you can work here. And I was like, well, I'm in school. I'm not willing to quit that right now. It's not something I'm interested in. You know, I just kind of, you know, this is something I would like to like do in greater depth, you know, but right now I can't, I don't have $10,000. And he was like, how about 5,000? You could put down 5,000, and then for an extra deeper cut, you can work off the second 5,000. And I was like, I can't even do 5,000. Like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like a 20-year-old, you know, in college, super in debt already, you know, kid who has no assets, right? So I ended up like tattooing on my house a little bit longer. And then he called me up and he was like, hey, I was taking a look at your stuff. Why don't you come on back in? We'll have a talk. And he had already had like, I think it was 6 or 7 apprentices, all paying $10,000 each. And he was like, look, I'll give you what you need to know to start off. I'll teach you about, you know, hygiene. I'll teach you about, you know, sterilization. I'll teach you about being protective about you and your client. I'll teach you what a shader is, what a color machine is, and I'll teach you how to use these things because I want you to be clean while in my shop. So I'm going to at least give you that. And you know, you need more than one machine because I was just switching machines or switching needles. I would literally do all my outlines and then I'd have to switch tubes on the same machine. I was literally trying to color things in with a liner, right? So you know, he taught me these really basic things that I needed to get forward and then thrown into the wolves. That's my apprenticeship.
Just because you had a better drawing portfolio probably than a lot of the apprentices he was pulling through, you guess?
No, I wasn't. No,
I wonder why he would have chosen you.
I could look back on that and just be like, no, it was terrible. What are you talking about?
I wonder what would make him choose let you come without the 10 grand when everyone else is paying it.
So politics wise, from my perspective, from what I could see, right? His shop imploded. He was already kind of just a mid tattooer as it was, and he was getting too old and he was really hurting himself, lots of drug use, lots of just abuse on his body and stuff like that. So he was funding his life through these paid apprenticeships, but he needed somebody now who sort of has some chops that I could just kind of give some training wheels and be like, hey man, you know, do this, because he was opening a second location and he was going to staff his best artist there. It turns out his best artist was in secret going to open his own shop with their next best artist. So they left and then left one person behind tattooing. So that's it. So they need to staff 2 locations with 1 tattooer.
That's how it goes. Did anyone at the shop know that you didn't pay?
Yeah, no. So here's the thing about that, right? He was telling them, if Rich asks for anything, tell him no. Tell him no. Don't give him an answer, okay? Don't give him what you paid money for free. Don't teach him anything because he didn't pay for an apprenticeship. It devalues my apprenticeship here, the value of my apprenticeships here, if you go behind my back and teach him something.
What an interesting thought. It like, forget the fact that it devalues your entire tattoo studio if Rich puts out horrible tattoos because no one's sharing any information with him. Right? Yeah.
You know,
that's the way it goes. So how long did you spend there? I don't guess we ever had this conversation. That's funny, is that we've talked about it quite a few times. I don't guess I've ever asked about apprenticeships.
We never talked about that.
I don't think so. If so,
wait, what would you say? Wait.
I mean, how long was that your actual apprenticeship, or did you find a better...
So that was my apprenticeship, was like thrown to the wolves and then kind of like watching, you know, standing over his shoulder while he's tattooing, being like, what is this guy doing over here? What's that? You know what I mean? Like kind of seeing what they're doing. And, you know, and honestly, his playbook was the Guy Atchison like book on, you know, tattooing and stuff like that. Like that was his playbook. You know, so if you want to learn what he was teaching them, buy that book, read it, and you just got that apprenticeship for however the book goes for right now. It's not in print.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, it's better than, you know, better than a lot. At least he listened to Guy and had something worthwhile to share, I guess.
Yeah, if you were to like, you know, gun to the head, he would be like, Nah, his favorites are more like the Japanese like greats. Because what he would do is he felt like he was a part of that tradition by doing what the way they teach, where they hand down their stencils, right? And then you're tracing your ancestors' stencils through all the years. And you know, he just thought like, I'm gonna take this and now that's my koi fish, and then that's
Right.
it. And you know,
You know,
execution, one thing, improvement on it, and does another, right?
it really sounds like, well, I'm kind of wondering how they found out that you didn't pay. He didn't tell
No, he
you
just
not
tells
to.
them. He just tells them. No. Like
Oh, they
Rich
said
is
don't.
not paying for an apprenticeship. Don't teach him anything
Yeah.
because you paid me money.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's I'm curious, jumping forward a little bit, something that
Yeah.
I don't know how many people who are on right now have watched any of our podcasts together, but you've got a couple of things that you do that are kind of unique, jumping forward from apprenticeship times, and I would think that some of these folks will have some questions about it. And one of those is your kind of preparation process. And I don't know, maybe it was the last time that we talked. You talked about how you don't really do a lot of, like, your consultations are like 2 or 3 hours, or multiple versions of a drawing, maybe with the person right there in front of you, or maybe on their you're drawing with your client and things like that.
You're mixing me up.
Am I? Is that not what you're
Yeah.
doing?
No.
I thought you were saying you do 3 or 4 versions of a drawing in front of the client. Do you do 3 versions?
No, I'll do 3 or 4 versions just
But
because
not
I
with a
don't like
client.
what I just did.
Okay.
So the consultation process is separate of what you're saying.
Okay.
And then once I hone in on what I want to do, let's say, I don't know, Scorpion, right? Scorpion. You know, like I'll be really fixated on being really stylized. And then maybe in the next one, I'll be fixated more on like the accuracy, but stylized. You know what I mean? Try to get like the right amount of segments, make sure they're positioned in the right way so it looks like it's a joint, you know? And then maybe I'll look at it again and I'll be like, I could probably do something cooler than that. Maybe do a really hyper inward perspective on it. Or break it down to just the 2 elements of it. Maybe its head is chopped off or something like that, you know, or the tail is separate, you know, or whatever. And, you know, so I'll do the 3 versions just because I have to impulsively, but it's not all the time. Sometimes when I draw it the first time, I'm happy. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm totally jazzed. I'm like, this is what I imagined. This is exactly what I think I could do the best right now, you know?
so you don't ask a lot of questions of the client. They just give you a concept and you're like, I kind of feel like doing this.
Yeah. So like right now I'm getting a lot of Wendigos. You know, that's pretty freaking rad. You know what I mean? Like, so they'll be like, hey man, I really want my hand. So I was thinking Wendigo would be cool, but if you're really feeling a skull, or you know what else I like when you do this. And I'll be like, oh, all right, Wendigo it is, man. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever, you know, like, so is it like that's basically how it like goes down. Like, so they just kind of tell me the general idea of what they want to do. And then I'll just say like, you know, if there's something I feel like that's impeding my ability to be creative, I'll ask more questions to get specific, just so I'm not wasting my time going down a certain path, you know?
So when did you kind of realize that you could do that? Just take what the client said and do what you want to do. Like, was there a period of time where you were trying to work towards that?
I feel like when I was on my way discovering who I was going to be or who I am in this, which I still don't even know, when I was on my way in, I feel like my style was I really wanted to make the client happy, and I wanted them to see and know and understand that their tattoo can be great and it doesn't just have to be like mediocre. So I would ask these like a lot of people want a collage. They'll be like, I want a sleeve. And then they give you like 15 things. And you know in your heart, you should probably do 3 of those things. If you want to make like a really awesome badass sleeve, in my opinion, in my style, 3 of those things are probably best. In my style, 3 of those 15, how do you like them in order? In what you like the most to the least. And if they're giving me 10 options and they're saying 1 to 10, this is what I love. And then as it goes on, it becomes optional. I'll try to squeeze in as many as I can with like the vision I might have for it. So I can just imagine how these things relate to each other and how the best way to collage them, whether it be, you know, pushing perspectives or incorporating the thing into the next thing, things like that. So like that's what my style was. It was very illustrative, and I was really big on making sure that I made like a neat collage. So I feel like that kind of like translated over. Like they're like it was always that way. It was always that way where they told me what they wanted and I drew it for them. It's always been that way. It's never not been that way. So I guess the change would be if you're talking about like maybe getting stuff that you enjoy doing more over things that aren't as enjoyable for you to do. The change for me was to find out what I think is interesting and then try to make it interesting to other people. And when you can make something look really awesome and it catches the eye of somebody who wouldn't normally be into a Wendigo, or just the idea of it, or the information that's like behind it, the history and so on and so forth, you know, maybe that'll kind of inspire them, like, holy shit, that actually looks kind of cool. And then then people are saying, hey man, I really want to get a Wendigo, but like, you know, I really wanted a Baba Yaga. Is there any way we can work like maybe like a Baba Yaga type thing in it? And you're just like, dude, we're in a forest already. Put a fucking Baba Yaga hut in the background and have the Wendigo in the foreground. Boom, you have a fucking Wendigo Baba Yaga sleeve. You know, like I've always drawn the things I was requested to do. I just did them in ways, and I started choosing the information I wanted to do and started designing those things. And then people just wanted them. And then it just snowballed. I'm in it for 24 years. Like,
right.
You know,
I think, well, at least the way that when we first met, you and I met at Evergreen quite a few years ago now. The thing that stood out to me at that point, we weren't booking a lot of people in advance. We were like walking up to people at the convention saying, hey, can you make time to podcast? Which I think is what we did with you. But I think the thing that really stood out is just the sheer volume of work that let's just take a convention setting, but now it could be just your Instagram or whatever, and the number of drawings that you put out. And so when someone walks up to a booth with like a portfolio of some tattoos that they've done and they have this idea of what they want, they're going to give you their idea. If they walk up to your booth with 100 freaking drawings laying out and all these like renderings that are ready to be tattooed, and it's all the subject matter that maybe they're not even familiar with, or maybe it's like, they didn't know they were into witchy stuff or whatever. They're like, holy shit, I love that hand, or I love that what it does. I think that's like, probably it's just I might be wrong putting words in your mouth, but to me, I was like, oh, I know exactly what this dude is about as soon as I saw his setup, and I didn't even know you at all,
Yeah. I think it's just my inability to like slow down has like kind of caused me to be like prolific with the drawings, like there are certain things that I just do in my life that keep me out of trouble. And drawing's one of them. You know what I mean? Like it feels good to draw. It feels good. Like I get a dopamine rush when I draw, right? So, back then it was a lot of coffee, you know what I mean? A lot of energy drinks, a lot of running around, a lot of, traveling and stuff like that. So I try to be as prolific as possible. I try to do at least like, I don't know, maybe like 15 pieces of flash within the week. I'd always come in early, get 1 or 2 done, do my appointment, maybe do 1 or 2 more before I leave. Wow. And then when I got home, that was my sanctuary. So as soon as I walked through that door, no more tattoo stuff, no more drawing. I'm not an up all night drawing guy. I'm an up all morning, all day drawing guy.
Yeah.
And all night.
Yeah. And all night.
Yeah, dude, I've been up for the past like 3 nights drawing. It's crazy.
What is your so you said back then, are you still doing much traveling, or are you at home most of the time now that you have family and all?
No, I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I made a decision when having her that like I'm gonna sacrifice what I need to sacrifice to have the best relationship possible with her. And the first 5 years are really formative, and it's really important to be like around for your child's development as a father. So I decided, like, when my girlfriend and I, Gabby, when we decided to have a child, like, that was a contract I made with myself that I can't break. So it was like, hey, do you want to have a kid? And she said yes. And I'm like, let's do this. You know what I mean? And I knew from that point there's going to be way less traveling. Okay. I have done a little bit recently, but way less traveling. There's going to be way less time away from home. You know, so for me, this is just a great sacrifice. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, to be honest with you. You know,
Yeah.
like I feel great.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Is your goal as your daughter grows, is your goal to travel more and take her along with you? You see a lot of people doing that these days.
Yeah, that's 100% the plan. I want to raise her in a creative environment, and not to get into the politics of parenting, but I want to homeschool. I probably will be homeschooling, and this will probably be a little part of her daycare. It's weird to have a shop that suddenly has a spot for your daughter, you know, to do her homework. It's just awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did that. I mean, both of my kids grew up kind of around tattooing at the studio, you know, in and out. You know, they don't think twice to walk in while I'm working on something, to walk around behind me and grab something off of my desk or whatever they need or whatever. So yeah.
She mentions the shop all the time. It's awesome.
That's awesome. And
she's like,
what?
Daddy, go to the shop? Like, no, honey. She's 2, yeah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the episode. I wanted to take a quick minute to thank our newest partner, our newest sponsor. I'm excited to introduce you to Tattoo Trunk. Have you heard of them? So Tattoo Trunk is a tattooer-owned, tattooer-founded, modular, portable tattoo station, tattoo setup. And if you're a traveling tattooer, you should definitely listen to what I'm saying. I personally believe that my tattoo setup is vital to a successful and efficient tattoo session. So in my home studio, everything is set up in a particular way, and it's always that way for every single tattoo. But when I've tattooed at conventions or doing guest spots at other shops, I always feel a little discombobulated and out of place. My stuff just isn't where it's supposed to be, and it kind of throws me off and takes me a little longer to adjust to the tattooing process. Well, Tattoo Trunk has solved that problem. This modular system is completely customizable. It folds in and collapses on itself to be stored neatly inside of a backpack, and then locks together in different configurations based on your needs. If you need to hold 1 ounce to 2 ounce to 4 ounce inks, different drawer systems to hold machines, cartridges, and other supplies, a bin to hold dental bibs. These guys have basically thought of it all. And as a special little bonus for Fireside viewers, subscribers, listeners, if you enter the promo code Fireside at checkout, you will get an extra 10% off of their trio or quad bundles. So like I said, if you're a traveling tattooer or just want to clean up your station, have something that's a little more put together, check out tattootrunk.com. You will find links to Tattoo Trunk somewhere around here, definitely in the description below and maybe even on the screen. Thank you to Tattoo Trunk. Thank you to you guys for supporting what we do. Let's get back to the episode.
I was wondering if, what do you think built your work ethic around art? Like, what did you experience that made you want to produce?
So I guess it would be like, I have a like a history in martial arts, like throughout my like childhood and stuff like that. And I had a mentor that was really cool. And he was like a big brother to me. And he basically like kind of guided me on what hard work produces. And he showed me that like when you work hard, you know, you're going to see results. They might not always be linear. They're going to be like this, you know, someday it's just 1% each time. But, you know, if you keep plugging away, you get better. And I think he was really formative in those years. I really needed somebody. And then when I went to college, I met the kind of like the cliquey art, the artsy ones, you know what I mean? Like the cliquey artsy kind of, they seemed like obnoxious, like everybody like, you know, doesn't like the artsy kid or whatever. But I ended up meeting up with a girl that kind of like challenged me, and she kind of pushed me to kind of like rethink why I was there and what art is. And what ended up happening was like I went to school for glass blowing, and glass blowing is this fine line between craft and art. It's where these two things mix up. And your choice while learning this craft is how far you want to go with the art. And, you know, so I was really hyper focused on being as technical and as clean as I possibly could in the craft of making glass. So goblets and vases and things like that, these like kind of like old kind of things, you know. And there's a couple statements that I heard that kind of started making me think. Like one thing was, congratulations, you did exactly what they did in 1350 with wood firing stoves. Good job. You know, and it's like, you're not wrong. You know what I mean? I did not innovate, but I am trying to perfect the techniques, right? So while I was trying to perfect those techniques, I got a little lost in the woods, and I was pretty much only focusing on like how good I can do these things, how technical I can be, how impressive I can be, what tricks I can do. And she came up behind me one day and she just said something like, what was it? It was like, that's really good. It's really good. So like, do you want to be an artist with a big A or a little a? And I was like, fuck does that mean? What the fuck are you talking about? You know, and then I was like thinking about it and I was like, that's actually a really good point. Like it can go further, you know, like you can go really deep and you can end up being, you know, you can be like like some kind of performance artist, right? You can get really deep with your stuff where it's like, you need to have a degree to understand it kind of thing. Like, and, you know, all that, or you can just try to do something with yourself and where you fit in with that. So like, so I think like what ended up happening was like, I got this drive when that happened and I just wanted to make and make and make. And I had all these ideas, like a floodgate opened up. So for me, it was glass, 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 glass. And then she comes in and she's like, why not plastic? And I was like, yeah, why not plastic? And then it's like, why not metal? Okay, why not make molds and then make 1 million of these things out of whatever the fuck you want? And I'm just like, that's a really good point. You know what I mean? Like, and I would get ideas and then I'd execute them no matter what they were, you know, blood, you know, like plaster stuff, glass stuff, rock, you know, just whatever the hell I wanted, right? And I brought that over. I think that like drive over to tattooing, because during this entire process, remember, I was tattooing while I was in college the whole time. I had to go full time in order to get financial aid, right? On top of having to pay loans, of course, but to get some relief, right? So I had to go full time. So I was tattooing full time, and I was going to school full time, and I just kept, you know, trying to make as many things as possible to keep experimenting and learning and be like, oh wait, I can do it like that. And then you can be, oh, I like how that person does it. I can do it like that. And then somewhere in there, you find your voice, I guess, you know, and then it's easy and effortless to pump out like 50 like pieces of flash in like a week. You don't have to do line work for every single one of them, but at least like sketch it all out and just do like a, you know, shading, however feels comfortable for you. I find that with pencil, it goes faster. When I'm on my iPad, it slows me the fuck down. You give me paper and pencil, I could draw 3 pieces of flash in a couple hours, you know, and be happy with every single one of them.
That's awesome. She like taught you the difference between like what a tattooer is and a tattoo artist.
Yeah, basically.
So what is art then, now that you have a good idea of what it is?
Jeez, that's a tough one. I don't know. I have to come back to that one.
Monica's taking over questions.
There's a fucking speed bar there. I was like, oh shit. Damn. What is art now? So I guess for me, like, I still am one of those people that equates art with their technical ability. Okay. Now, that's not to say that when you see ignorant art, let's just say, or ignorant tattooing, if it's executed with expertise and it shows that they have, you know, the sleight of hand to make that pop, then, you know, you can then look at it and say objectively, like with what they do, it's really great. And then when you know something's not great, it just smells. You can just tell right off the bat, like, something about that doesn't fit, right? You just know for some reason. So like for me, when I was trying to figure out what art is for me, what I ended up kind of like coming to was like, when I see something that's created by you know, a person, and it is beyond my hands. When I look at, you know, like when I went to the Louvre and I saw all those marble sculptures all throughout all the hallways, like the perfection of all of that was so beyond my hand that it was like awe-inspiring. It's like, I can't do that. So for me, I would sit there and say, no, that's art. You know what I mean? But if somebody had that same execution of skill of their hand, but they ended up making a piece of crap, you just know it. There's something about it where like for me, I equate it with something beyond my abilities. If I see a really amazing tattoo and I look at it, I'm just, wow, you know, like, how did they do that? Like, that's like, holy shit. And it, you know, it could be anything. It could be literally anything. If I look at it and it's beyond my hand, I tend to be like, now that's somebody who's tapping into what art is. That concept, like love, where you can't really be like, this is oh shit, that's not art. Fuck. Or, you know, like it's so hard to grab what art is, in my opinion. But like for me, it's that expression you can get through perfection is what I equate it with. You know, if that makes any sense.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, I was muted for a second. I think that, you know, one thing, going back to you talking about how you do 3 or 4 versions of a thing, kind of seeking what makes it. I just put out an episode of Technique Talk, or not a Technique Talk, but whatever thing last week about you know, how to convince people to get the tattoos that you want to do, and more basically the gist of it was like, just try to find something about that idea that you can get fascinated with, that you can get really interested in, even if the subject matter itself isn't, you know, and all subject matters are made up of some shapes and some values and some colors and some lines and all that stuff. So it's like, find a way to make that thing something you really care about, even if you don't necessarily care about the subject matter. And that's kind of what I was thinking with your like the way that you kind of developed your own style, and then even the way that you're working now, where you're saying like, all right, I'm doing a scorpion, and then this is technically correct, with them what if and what if and what if, you know, that kind of, I think, fits into that you know, like, you know, what art is like staying curious. Andy Chambers, who was just here this last week for the yacht club trip, he always says, I'm just looking for the thing that's going to make the design exceptional. He uses the term exceptional all the time. I mean, he can draw dragons as well as anyone draws dragons, or whatever, or koi fish as well as anyone. It's like, but what do I like? What makes it exceptional to me that the client may or may not ever notice? You know?
And you know, before I forget, I just want to kind of say, like, even when I teach like an apprentice, you know, they're going to be taking a lot of walk-ins. It's going to be information they're not exactly excited with, right? So sometimes they bring in these ideas, and one of the things I say, well, tootling, you know, is basically saying, like, if you can improve on that design, take the opportunity to do so and try to showcase yourself with it. You know, so if you can somehow, if you see it and they're like, you know, can I just draw something that'll look, you know, like this, but like maybe like in my style, you know, if you're improving on the design they brought, they'll probably go with yours because you put in extra time with them, right? And you're always going to have the chance where they're going to say, no, I want that one, the one I brought in. There's always going to be that chance, you know, but like, if you see the opportunity to improve on a design, take it.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. I think a lot of times we see what people bring in as reference, and a lot of times it's other tattoos. And maybe it's not maybe it's not tattoos. We look at tattoos all day, every day. So maybe it's not tattoos that we consider great. Maybe they did some Pinterest searching and they found some stuff that was pretty close to what they were thinking. And then I think a lot of times, I know that I'll look at the reference they bring in and automatically assume like the type of client they are. It's not that they like intentionally brought mediocre tattoos. They like did some searching, brought tattoos that look good to them because they don't look at tattoos all the time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I don't have the opportunity to like, if I don't think any of the stuff they brought was good, you know, I'll just go like, all right, I get the
Yeah.
gist you're going for, but we're switching all of this up because nothing in there is like, but I think what a lot of us do, probably all of us are guilty for it whenever we're pressed for time and stuff, is we try to just like do we take it as maybe as an excuse to not put 100% into it and go like, okay, well, they're satisfied with this quality of work, you know, like this.
Yeah.
You know, like, so
Yeah,
I'll just do something a little
I
better
don't
than
do that. Never settle for that. Never, never,
Yeah.
never settle for that.
It,
Don't do
it's
that.
very weird whenever you meet someone who would have been completely okay with a different style and
Yeah.
all they showed you was fine line. It's kind of mind blowing.
That's
Yeah.
that's the Z guys, right? Isn't that the new thing? Everybody wants fine line.
I think
Right?
so.
So they're gonna bring that in. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're getting fed right now.
Yeah. Who, anyone else have any, I mean, Monica's doing a great job running the show here, but does anyone else have anything they want to pitch in and ask or?
I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Real quick, whenever you're coming up with your ideas or your concepts, do you thumbnail?
No,
No.
I've watched people thumbnail a lot. I see the benefit, but that never got into my I never got into my process. I drew on paper forever. I'm using an iPad now ever since my child was born. You know, I gotta lay in bed and draw. It's easier.
Yeah.
But but like what I would do is I have a light board that's the exact size of like a 3/4 sleeve. And I have another light board that's the exact size of like a half sleeve, basically. So I would just pull out the tracing paper and I would just do sketch like real fast on the tracing paper. And I would sketch out like a half sleeve in a very short amount of time. And if I'm not happy with it, or if there's improvements that are to be made, I don't layer over top. I just erase what I don't like and finalize it and then jump to the next one. You know,
Okay.
I know it's time consuming, but like, for me, I need to put in a lot of reps to get what I want, in my opinion. You know,
That makes sense.
it gets easier. You know what I mean? Like it's much easier for me to draw things that I draw all the time. You know, like it's want to win to go. I got it.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else before I jump back in?
I got a question.
Oh no.
Yeah, Jake.
How much do you squat?
Ah.
I told you
I
I'd
knew
ask
it.
that.
Dude, I was eyeballing your name on that list the whole time, man. I'm an old man. There's no squatting in there.
No, so one thing I noticed when we got to hang out and do some drawings together and whatnot, you always start from the middle and work your way outwards. Is there
Yeah.
a reason behind that? Is that where you want to put the most emphasis and then everything else just ends up being secondary, or is it just force of habit?
Yeah, I guess I do kind of like start right in the middle. You know what I mean? That focal point is for me is normally in the middle. I feel like, yeah, so that's probably what it is. It's probably because like I have the focal point, and also I like the idea of like working around the design, like and building it out, and like if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
That's that's a good point. So to that point, I've never really watched you draw a ton, I don't guess, but to that point, you know, are you I guess when you're doing consultations for pieces for particular people and you know where it's going on their body, you're paying attention to the I don't know if you photograph them and draw to their body specifically or not, or if you just have a generic idea of most
That's
of
what
these things are portrait.
Dude, that's what I love about the iPad is now I draw directly on the photo all the time.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah. But even still, you still start kind of from the center and work your way out. You don't do big gestural shapes like Guy. Just
No.
you don't
Yeah,
do
I never got into gestural stuff. I guess like for me, like the most like successful pieces in my opinion for me, I have the full idea as soon as you tell me what you want. Like, you know, if I'm looking at the spot on your body and, you know, or you say hand and you say, you know, like I want, you know, a potion bottle, I immediately start thinking about the limitations and things I can do and tiny little things I can have fun with for the hand and the potion bottle, right? So I just instantly have what I know what it's going to look like, the elements I want to have in it. I just have to get it out. Now there are pieces where I'll have to redraw the thing in the angle I need multiple times to get it, because maybe that wasn't that's not right. There it is. That's the correct angle I need out of that. But yeah, no, I know exactly what it's going to look like. I might just have to fix an anatomy or something like that I don't have accurate, and then I go back in and erase and fix up the anatomy so that it's correct,
Right.
by referencing, looking at people standing in the positions I want, looking at the muscles on the body and stuff like that,
Yeah. And I think I would assume compared to drawing on with paper and pencil, the ability to like warp and scoot and mesh on an iPad to like shift things, shift perspectives just by taking your sketch and scooting it around has really made a big difference for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah. I love layering. That's something I never did either.
Oh yeah.
Yep, never layered. Never did on top of anything. I just draw everything straight out.
I may have asked you this before, but I don't remember the answer. You're doing a lot of stuff, even bigger stuff, kind of one shot ish, I guess. Do you line, shade, let shading, like do you do gray shading and then color on top of that, or you just blast
Yeah.
everything together? You do.
Yeah. So if it's really large pieces, I do all the outlines, bold to thin. I don't do thin first. I do bold to thin. So I do all the outlines first, and I immediately have my shader. I'm using the critical torque. So I have my shaders out too. I immediately start shading. And then as soon as the shading's done, I give them a little Bactine, let them, relax for a second or two while I'm putting out my colors. And then, by then the Bactine or the Vazacane or whatever is kind of sunk in. My inks are all ready to go. We sit back down and we just blast out the second half.
Yeah. That's interesting. You work with your heaviest lines first and then put in your thin lines second, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you visualize that? Are you mostly just like the outside of the shapes, like a traditional kind of style? The outside of the shapes are heavier and inside shapes.
Yeah. Like, for me, I have like the step down. I think of like, where are my real fat ones? Cause there's times where like, let's say you're coming to like a tiger's face over here and you got these teeth and you got all these other small little teeth. I don't do that 11 all the way through. I'll stop and then I'll get my tight 9 and I go in and detail out the tight 9 in a kind of like a shorthand calligraphy, right? It's just the tighter details I do with the thinner line, but I do try to keep outer edge type stuff bolder. It all depends on what the piece calls for, really. But that would be my general. Would be like get that framework that I'm hanging all of my midlines on, and then all my thinner lines are my detailed lines. Kind of the things that are more expressive.
What are your typical configurations? Needle configurations?
I'm still using the straight 11. All black hole liners. I'm using the straight 11, the tight 9, and then the Hellifine 5.
Okay. Yeah. I just recently bought. I had not bought Black Claw until very recently, and I bought kind of a mix pack to get a feel for it. And I'm always anything with the name Hellifine. I always was like, I don't know. I don't like in my experience, really tight stuff. It doesn't hold enough ink, and I just haven't had good experiences. But even I got in my mix pack, I got a Hellifine 3. I feel like 5 of them, and I love them. They're awesome. I was like, oh shit, man, these things are tight. They're good.
You're just slicing.
Yeah, I'm just cutting people up.
Yeah, it feels good.
It does, right? We're about 45 minutes or so in, so we got another, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes or so. I mean, we can go longer if we need to, but
I'll go as long as you want. I don't care. I'm good.
Okay.
Question.
Go ahead.
So after hearing like your process, I feel like mine is extremely similar. And for years, I'm just hung up on the thought that I have to thumbnail, I have to layer, I have to do these things. I'm doing it wrong. Did you feel like once you just kind of embraced your process, it was like easier, less stressful? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? You know what I mean?
It
Doesn't that feel
sounds
good?
great. Like I think I just had a light bulb moment because I'm like, man, I just can't stop the idea of like wanting to go to school or like learn how to do it properly. But when I try it those ways, and I've had people explain it, Dan's helped me with thumbnails, like Jake's helped explain so many things, Kurt, everybody, it's just like it just doesn't click in my brain. And then I just go back to how I usually do it, and it's been going fine, but I just still felt like I've been doing it wrong.
Is it successful the way you're doing it?
I think so.
Then
Like
you're
it,
not doing anything wrong. Like
yeah,
like when you thumbnail, it feels like taking a step back.
yeah.
So I'm not saying that every process you go through is going to be painless, but you need to reevaluate whether that's right for you. And you've been questioning it. And I feel like your gut, your intuition is your body making decisions for you before you're aware. So
Mhm.
like it doesn't feel right for you for a reason. Maybe revisit it.
Yeah, because
Maybe
it's
revisit it. Go down the path you want to go down for a minute and revisit it. You know what I mean? If you say, "Hey, man, thumbnailing would really help right in this situation right now. Let me see if I can work out my ideas." Because what thumbnailing essentially is a time saver, in my eyes. It's
mhm.
like a time saver. It is also very good for discovering whether or not, through saving time, by the way, discovering whether or not your design is going to work before you commit time again. You know what I mean? So like if you feel like you're not wasting your time going down the road you're going down, then I don't know. Like I feel like you need to listen to your gut on that one.
Yeah, I think so. And just hearing you talk about it, it sounds so similar to how I already do it. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should just stop, you know?
Yeah, I never had anybody tell me how to do anything.
Yeah.
But it's not entirely true. Like when I got into the second shop I was in, there was a guy, Brian Donovan and Scott Bramble, two guys rather. And they were having a problem, so they split up and I went with Brian. So I got a little bit of tutelage from Scott, where he kind of like showed me about his personal process, and it didn't work with me. And then I worked with Brian for like 7 years, and his process worked for me. For me, getting into the shop at 8 a.m. and drawing till my appointment at noon feels right, and it feels better. I feel like more productive in the morning. And so I listened to what was right for me. I'm not a nighttime drawing person. I had to be temporarily for a lot of reasons. I don't enjoy it. But I do like spending a lot of time with my daughter. So, I draw when she's asleep. So like I don't want to occupy. I don't want her to ever look at me holding an iPad and be like, that's more important to my daddy than I am right now. I don't want that. So like you should do what feels right is the short form of what I was trying to say. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it works for some people and it doesn't others.
Yeah.
And
I'm also self-taught. I didn't go through an apprenticeship, so I don't know if there's some sort of correlation there or not.
solidarity.
Yeah. But cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I think that yeah, you're Rich, you're doing 2 or 3 versions of something to solve the problem, and maybe it's more time invested, but you also have a pretty defined process, and like in your drawings look a certain way. And I think about what when you're thumbnailing, I think you're trying to, let's for example maybe try to solve the very most, like the simplest problems, like is my foreground dark and my background light, or vice versa. But if you always have light foregrounds and dark backgrounds, if that's just like, oh, I like my drawing, that's just kind of the way that I am, or if you like, if a lot of those really early on problems you don't have because you already kind of know the way you handle those things,
Yeah.
then maybe it's not as necessary.
Hyper focused on the skill set and how to execute a tattoo with longevity. That was my start. I was told by that first guy who hired me, like, lines are the most important part of a tattoo, and I believed him. And and I still do not see that as anything but the truth. Like, that is the truth. Like, the lines or the black within the design is the most important for longevity. How much you care about that is kind of like where I feel like people land on the spectrum of tattoo style. You know what I mean? The super hardcore ones are the traditional guys, and then it branches out. But like, shit, let's go. Oh yeah. So, I just wanted to make one note. Like, so you talked about like the prolific kind of nature of like my portfolio when you come up. Cause if I could turn this around, I have like those giant, like real tall, like books just full from front to back of just all my designs. Part of the reason why I have so many pieces of flash is because I do 3 drawings for every person. Because those 2 other drawings, if they're not dedicated to a specific spot on a body that needs to be custom drawn for, those remaining 2 designs that are very different from the other two, go into the portfolio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you execute the tattoo of the subject matter. You try to do your best with it, like we always do. Present it the best you can, on media. Somebody sees it and goes, man, I really want to get one of those. Well, looky, I got 2 of them right here. Do these look good to you? Or you want me to draw another one? Do you want me to draw it to fit a spot? And then you just get a piece based off of that. But then you still got 2 pieces of flash just sitting there waiting for somebody to find it. You know?
Yeah. Definitely a lot of
So
value.
like that's one way to fluff your portfolio or your flash book. Don't just think I'm going to draw flash today. Every day you're drawing flash.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Sorry, I'm missing all these comments that people are leaving. I'm trying to see.
I don't even see the comments. Jesus.
You have to click the chat and it'll pop up for you. But I was just I wasn't paying attention. Oh, Lynn was saying that he does. Yeah, he was saying he does thick lines first as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And Dan says everyone's staring at him saying, no, do not do whatever you want. Yes, Dan, you cannot do whatever you want. You got it. Dan is just now starting an apprenticeship. He's been our right-hand man through this Inside Fireside thing, but he's just
nice.
So he does a lot of drawing and he gets a lot of opinions from everyone in the club, and all the opinions are do not do whatever you want.
Only SJ can. No, I'm just kidding.
Say it again.
Said only SJ can.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think that, SJ, you're starting to find subject matter that you're really drawn to, and you're starting to execute it in a certain way. So I completely agree with what Rich is saying. If you don't feel like you finished thumbnail and you feel like that was just part of your job you had to check off because someone said so, and it didn't help you get closer to solving the problem, then, probably no reason to keep doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah. Anyone else? We're maybe 8-10 minutes left, unless you guys want to go longer or have more. Any closing questions, closing thoughts, any of that kind of stuff?
It might not have anything to do with tattooing, but what is the whole witchy thing? Like, how are you into witches?
I guess for me, it's more about the horror end of it. I'm not into like any kind of pagan anything or rituals, although I've been to many of them. I have a lot of friends that are pagans and stuff like that, and they do hand fastings and stuff. So I've been to all those and everything. But for me, I'm more fixated on the end of like Gretel and Hansel, like the newer Gretel, the horror movie that came out. Like I'm more fixated on that like scary idea of a witch. So so like I want to draw witches. All right. So that's what I got into. I was like, all right, I'm going to draw witches. I'm not going to draw pretty witches. Everybody does that. I'm going to draw ugly witches. I just want to do ugly witches. So, I'd go down the path, of course, my favorite, I guess, Meg Mucklebone would be one of my favorite witches, like a swamp witch, right? Or swamp hag or whatever, like she's pretty rad. So you go down that path and you're like, yeah, it's really cool looking, and then you're like, but there's got to be more to this. So I did a lot of research. I have an encyclopedia of it's called Man, Myth, and Magic. It came out in like the 70s or something like that. It's got some interesting language in it, but once you get over like some small stuff here and there, it's a really awesome resource for the strange and unusual. So you look into that and you start finding out like things that were associated with witches, which are way cooler to draw than just a witch face. You know what I mean? You start learning things about, like the phases of the moon, which one means which way and all that. You start learning these things, and then it's interesting. It's interesting. So why not read, the full article, the full paragraph? Why not go through all this and try to improve on your own idea of what a witch is? For me, it still is the scary witch. I like them to look ugly and scary, which is counter to what everybody wants to promote in our Western culture. Is like, we're Mother Nature, like I like them scary.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's also kind of I saw Dan, you raised your hand. That's also one of those things where you that's how you find your audience, right? Because you like not everyone wants an
Yeah.
ugly witch on their body,
Yes.
but there are people who
100%.
really want that, you know?
Yeah. 100%. It's not saying I won't draw a pretty witch, because I will.
Yeah.
I just did a witch hand piece actually, and I drew it to be wintry. And she was like, "Hey, I really want to get this piece from you. I hate to ask you, but can you make it autumn?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So I put pine cones in it. I put some leaves in there. What was really great is I wanted her to be a wintry witch, so I put kind of like a fur kind of like I guess like coat kind of thing going on, like shawl, so it looks all puffy on her. And what's great is I could still keep a little bit of that, I could still have that, but it's just gonna be a different color. And then she wanted to add flames, and I was like, can you make this piece any cooler? Fucking A, you know what I mean? And I ended up like changing my piece that I drew for the winter, and we switched it over to the fall for her daughter, inspired for her daughter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Dan, you have your hand raised.
So, I had a whole bunch of questions for you, but it seems like everybody asked them all for me because you answered all my questions without me saying anything. So thanks.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say I really appreciate your time coming to do this because you're just such a good illustrator, and it's really cool to hear all the different ways that you approach your work. And sort of that last comment that you just said was like about how you do research and how deep you dive into it. And I just really appreciate that because it's a very similar thing to what I do. I read and I read and I read and I look things up and I try and
Yeah.
gain as much like internal knowledge as I can so that whenever I try to activate that inspiration,
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of sort of reference in my head to what another idea might be. And I keep a little idea book next to me all the time. So yeah,
You know where
I
the
just wanted to
art.
say it. I really appreciate that.
No, dude, you're welcome. I'm here to share. But you know where that where I think the origin of all that started was I'm really good at doing bright color. Okay, I can say that with confidence and not feel cocky about it. I can do pretty bright color. So I did a lot of flowers, right? So for me was to how do I make this interesting and try to get it beyond where everybody else is doing it. And it was researching the flowers for she's now a friend of mine. I've been tattooing her for like 20 something years. She works like many not landscaping. She takes care of property and like state parks and stuff like that, but she's not a ranger. But it was really important that these things are very, very specific. The way these flowers are shaped, like I couldn't drop the ball there. So while looking at what this flower is, the budding process was also super interesting. So I did, years of making sure that I got the budding process also a part of it, what it looks like before it becomes the flower worked into it. Possibly if there's a third stage, do like 1, 2, and 3 and show the stages of the changes of the flower within the piece. And, and by doing that, I feel like is kind of where I jumped on to like researching deeper into every single thing, like where that next step is. How can I improve on this? If I research it, I might find that there's something right next door that is related to it so much that you can just work into the piece. And then it might be that little thing that just pops it off, that little zhuzh.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Anyone else? Nicole says I got in late, so I'm willing to hear more. We'll ask some questions then.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Yeah, I think that's a trying to say. I think that's a good point. Like it's easy to get stuck on like an idea. Someone who really knows a flower, knows the subject matter, and you're trying to like represent it in the best way possible. And it's like a not, in my experience, that is just like the worst brick wall to hit when they're into something that you're not into and you feel so limited, you know, about it.
Read this novel and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Okay.
Right.
All right, I got this.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of a Dune sleeve, and I watched the movies, but I've never read Dune. And,
One
like,
big sandworm from top to bottom.
yeah, exactly. That was my approch. But like this dude's like spent
Lots
his
of
whole life
ochre.
as a Dune super fan.
It's
But
all ochre.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Everything's ochre.
Yeah, yeah, it's just
Make sure there's more than one sun. You're moon. We're doing good.
We're doing fine then. But yeah, I think that, you know, then you like, you know, you start to research and you find something about that subject that's interesting to you. And then that usually gives that person a different vantage point. They're like, oh yeah, you know, like they're they're more into the thing than you are, but you find a way to represent it based on a more, you know, limited set of knowledge or base of knowledge, but it's like, oh, that's cool. You know, like in the Dune piece, for example, you know, the worm's blood is all blue. And then just in conversation, the guy that had told me, the client had told me that area of the Dune used to be like this lush forest. And I was like, oh, what if we found a way to make a transition where one of the worms is cut and it like, and the blood is pouring out.
And it made a forest?
Yeah, and it makes like this waterfall into this lush forest.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and then you bring it and you're like, does that make any sense? And he's like, man, not from the story, but I love the way that sounds visually. So I'm down for it, you know. So it's
Send them to paradise.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're an hour in. Anyone have anything? I normally try to just be respectful of folks' time. I know you don't mind that you're mind staying on, but since I'm asking people to share their nights with us. Yeah.
I just had a quick thing, real quick. I just wanted to say a couple of years ago, I believe I got around to watching y'all's first interview, or actually I think it might have been y'all's second interview, because I think y'all had one like way back, but it was like, I guess, like the more refined interview.
We did one a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that might have been the one. But I just wanted to say I got super fucking inspired off of that and off of your work. And it got me amped up to do like a bunch of ideas of like fictional cursed items, if that makes sense.
Hell yeah. Fuck
and, like,
I love
just
that.
had
I've been trying to figure that out, but I want to hear it. Keep going.
Yeah, it was just fun. And I don't know if you're much of a gamer at all, but you know, the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring and stuff like that.
I'm not a gamer at all. Like, I know what you're talking about because I've had to do many pieces.
Oh, I bet
that stuff, right? So
I bet
I know what you're referring to, but I do not play.
Yeah, but the coolest thing about that stuff is like there's items that has like all this like crazy lore to it. And it got me thinking, like seeing your work and then being into that, I was like, it'd be cool to make items that are cursed to be able to kind of write my own lore to it and pitch that stuff as items too. So I just wanted to say that was something that did inspire me a couple of years ago to do some pieces like that. And I appreciate your work to inspire off of that to work off of. So thank you.
Dude, that's an amazing compliment. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
So it's really weird that you say that, because I've been trying to for almost a year now to come up with my own cursed items, and it's actually based off of my favorite book. It's called it's based off the John Dies at the End series, but it's called if this book exists, you're in the wrong universe. And the book, if you have 10 minutes, maybe I think it might even only be 5 minutes long. The very beginning of the book, he says, wait, but first I have some notes. And this is this is like a comedy horror, cosmic horror kind of comedy weirdness. But anyway, the very beginning is him reading off his classifieds that he puts out, where he's selling cursed items, and it's like 5 or 6 cursed items that are fucking hilarious. Like, each one is just fucking insanely fucking hilarious, and I have not been able to come up with my own for about a year now, because every time I think about it, I'm like, Jason Pargin didn't write that, so it's probably dog shit. You know, like every time I try to come up with a cursed item, I'm literally taking what Jason Pargin said in the beginning of the book, and I'm just making a photocopy of it, and it fucking sucks. You know what I mean? Like,
I think
it's
you should
so
go for
hard.
it, man.
It's so hard. I'm trying because I want it to be funny. And the issue is how do I make that interesting to somebody else who hasn't read the book? So I'm trying to come up with something that's like funny and I can represent it in the actual flash itself. And I've just been churning for like a year. I literally got an Audible badge that I listened to it 20 times. You know, like I'm like sitting here like I still haven't figured it out. Like what the fuck?
So
But anyway.
does that mean your shop doesn't exist or does it exist?
Well, right now, if it does and you're in it, you're in the wrong universe, right?
So it's if this book exists, you're in the wrong universe. That's the name of it.
If this book exists, you're in the wrong universe.
That's a great title.
This particular book, like almost all of his books, are about some kind of cosmic being that interacts with us, and how we interact with it is basically at its core what it is. It's like basically like really long, convoluted, crazy ways of reproduction, and you're like, what the fuck? Like no being would ever do that. What the hell? You know, it's basically like that. But yeah, that it's my favorite book, and it is episodic. It is the 4th book in the series. It's episodic though, so you can listen to it independently. And I would even say and suggest to listen to that one first and then go back to book 1. Because once you finish book 4, you're a fan for life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
I just plugged Jason Pargin.
Well, man, thanks. I really appreciate it. We're ways in. Any closing thoughts from anyone? If not, we'll wrap it. But man, I do appreciate you taking the time. I always enjoy hearing what you have to say and catching up. Maybe I'll see you on the road again once your daughter gets a little older.
Yeah, I'll bring her with me.
Cool. All right. Everybody good? Everybody gonna read the If This Book Exists, You're in the Wrong Universe?
I'm gonna read it, definitely.
Give it a whirl. It's a
Good
comedy.
night.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Good night.
Oh,
Sounds awesome. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
man.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Joe says fantastic chat. Javier, thanks very much very insightful. Yeah, awesome. I agree. Cool, man. Rich, thank you. Everybody else, thank you guys. I'll see you. I don't know what our next event is, but sometime soon. There's a drawing night tomorrow night. I don't know if I'll be on it. I'm still stuck at the boat, and I'll see you guys sometime soon.
Stuck at the boat.
Stuck, yeah. I'm completely stranded. I can't get home. So, all right, guys. Everyone have a good night.
All right. Thanks for spending a little time with us. I hope you got something out of that. Like I said, if you would like to be a part of these discussions going forward, we do these at least once every single month, along with Mindset Mondays and drawing challenges and lots of other events in the club. I'd love to have you try it out and see if it might be something that helps you grow your tattoo skill set. What else? I think that's it. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.